Sorry, guys. Hee hee. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. So equanimity is this idea that we don't want to just wish people that we like or care about, or, that we wish these things for everybody, no matter whether we know them or not, whether we like them or not. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the wish that all beings with a mind have a mind that's free from suffering and has only happiness. And that everybody would have the mind of equanimity, because actually that's sort of the source of sustaining happiness. So that's sort of what we're talking about here, is this becoming your own therapist is to look within at our thoughts and try to figure out how can we adjust the way we think in order to not increase our suffering and perhaps reduce it. So for those of us who are Buddhist, we're going to recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. It's on page 98. Just have to be tricky. There you go. So don't feel that you need to recite it. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Thanks, Anthony. So, anybody have any leftover question from last week? Anybody think about last week? That's just curiosity on my part. So, any thoughts you'd like to share? Someone has a stack of Becoming Your Own Therapist books.
Well, someone needed one last week, so I just bought a couple extra.
You're so kind. That's really kind. So this is a free book from the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, which publishes the founders, teachers, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. They have a great website. If you've never checked it out, it's lamayeshe.com. And they have all sorts of stuff on it. But they also have their little books. You can read them online if you're not into paperbacks these days, or if we've run out or something. But Becoming Your Own Therapist is it's a transcript of some talks of Lama Yeshe. And it just condenses the whole idea of Buddhism down to a few pages. So it's actually very rich in material. So when you read it, you know, there's some of it is just going to kind of like, what? And other stuff, it's like, oh, yeah. And other stuff is sort of like, what is he on about? But, you know, the more like, I've, reread it recently after 20 years. I mean, I've read it several times actually in those 20 years, but, since the first time I read it. And it's just a wonderful description of the work we want to try to do in order to reduce our suffering. I'm sorry? Now my camera's not on? It's never been on. I just never clicked that part. Ta-da! Oh my goodness. I'm just so delighted with the weather. I'm just thinking about anything else. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes.
about if you were talking about the anticipation, maybe
Or the weather.
it was happiness.
Yes, this expectation and anticipation and this fervent wish, please may this be, and of course, most of the time that we're not conscious of having those kind of really strong desires that, may I find something finally that won't change, that will make me happy forever, or the perfect relationship, or the perfect job, or the perfect car, or the perfect whatever. It's more subtle than that. But we can, in our noticing when we start to get excited about something about to happen, that excitement may be fueling some exaggeration in our mind. And it can be an excitement that's dread. It can be the negative stuff where you're starting to spin a story about everything that could possibly go wrong and probably has already started to go wrong, or it can be about the positive stuff that, oh, isn't this great, blah, 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 And the danger of that way of thinking is it sets us up for when the situation changes. So that a good situation, when it starts to pass, because all things end, we crash because we've held it as something that can be permanent and it can be just like this. And finally, it's just like this, and so we get, it just distorts our intelligence, because it's not like we don't know that things end. It's not like we don't know there's no perfect food, there's no perfect partner, that there's no perfect day. That we know these things. This isn't rocket science. This is, we know this. So we want to catch ourselves when we're starting to spin a story in our mind that is lying to us, because we fall for it again and again and again. And then we either blame the external object for our mood shift, or we go into, we just continue that exaggeration and love is blind routine, so we just can't see what's really happening. Or we ignore that, yes, chocolate cake's good, but eating the whole chocolate cake's not so good, even if it tastes good, We just go into la la land because we want to find that perfect thing, and it doesn't exist. And we don't want to accept that.
So like in positive psychology, we can train our minds to be more positive.
Yep.
But if we do that in a way that's not attached or exaggerating, or can there be an exaggeration, as long as we're conscious, we're creating happiness and joy, and it's a choice and it moves us?
No.
Not even that.
An exaggeration's a lie.
Got it.
It's a fantasy.
I like.
Yeah. And that's really good to know. But we need to see the effect that those fantasies have on our real experience, since they can never live up to the fantasy. It's that's the danger. This is where, because as soon as it doesn't live up to the fantasy, what do we do?
Plummet.
Well, we might plummet. Then what do we do next?
Look for another one.
Well, yeah, we find another fantasy. Oh, it's that person. Ooh, look at them. Ooh, I found the perfect diet. I mean, it's unbelievable. We do this with everything. We just keep going from fantasy to fantasy to fantasy. And if you're negative, if you tend towards the negative side, you go from despair to despair to despair, because you've been exaggerating the negative stuff. So you can't look at anything with anything but you know, that, oh my God, can't anything be better than this? You know, can't my boss come in today and just, acknowledge my existence on this planet, whatever, we just, or gosh, where did they learn how to dress? That judgmental mind that we have that's constantly going, we want to see how it's flavoring our day. And it's all coming from our mind. It's not coming from out there. It's all coming from our perspective. And it doesn't mean our perspective isn't invalid. It's just that it's only your perspective and it carries all the filters of your perspective. And so if you're creating stories in your mind, that's affecting how you experience life. And it distorts the way we make decisions about what to do next, what to do now. Do we even notice what we're doing now because we're so busy fantasizing about the next moment? How much time do we spend? I'm still laughing about not having turned on the mic or the camera. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. See, that's that wish to be perfect. Please don't, it's bad enough I make mistakes. Just don't catch me, maybe. No. Okay. Yeah, where was I? See, this is what that I-centered mind does. It just completely derails us and, interrupts.
You were saying, how much time do we spend?
How much time do we spend not in this moment?
All the time.
Yeah. So if you're not happy, where do you need to look? Yeah. Where you're spending all your time, only not on what you're doing now. We're literally spending so much of our time on something that's not actually happening and will never happen because it's just a story in our head. Has absolutely nothing to do with anything. It's literally a story. All the worries that we have, that's a story we're making up about everything that can go wrong. The fantasies we have, that's a story about everything that could happen and is never going to. Because it doesn't reflect how things actually are. And it's a dangerous kind of mind to become more and more habituated to. Because we feel like we can't control that. And of course, it's natural to just want things that you like. It's just natural to, in every moment, want to be in a different moment. If that is true, our futures are bleak. If it's natural to wish, to think that every moment could be better than it is, what does that leave you? So we want to see if we're thinking that way. If we're thinking that every moment needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed by something nice to drink or eat, needs to be fixed by something to watch something entertaining. It needs to be fixed by whatever, turning on the radio. That's how we kind of feed this mind of desire. This moment's not quite so good. Let's do something different. We tweak it constantly all day long. Instead of looking at what is the way I'm thinking? How is that impacting my experience of what's happening?
So I have a question. Let's say we have thought awareness. We know, okay, this particular thought is bothering us. Then now we are in a fixing mode. How do we detach from that thought? I mean, that is self-bothering as well, even though we have self-awareness of thoughts.
So how do we get, let me just rephrase that. So how do we get out of, even when we go from worrying to problem solving and how to fix it mode, how do we get out of that? Well, you fix it. And then you stop thinking
But if
about it.
it is not happening,
Then,
then we get
then you're
attached.
not in problem solving. You're in worry mode. That's the trouble with grasping. Is we think, I have an idea and it should be working. And when it's not working, do we let go and just move on? No, we hold on to it. Like it would work if you cooperate, we start blaming others, or just blaming the world in general, like things were fair, if I ran the world, there'd be more chocolate. There'd be more cool weather days, I mean, this is just craziness. But I really believe that. There's a part of me that really believes that. And that's the part that we have to work on, because that's the part that's undermining our ability to have a peaceful mind from moment to moment.
That means we all are crazy in our own way.
That's why we have to become our own therapist. Because we're all crazy. Our whole strategy for how to be more content, how to be less frazzled, is incorrect, because the starting point's wrong, because the starting point is too often based on what can I change out here. You will never find a perfect out here. Doesn't mean changes can't be made, that changes can't be beneficial, but mainly it means it's never going to be just right. At the most we can have good enough. No. But even good enough changes, doesn't it? Because good enough does not prevent tragedies from happening. No. It's the whole need of having things cooperate, external things, our day, our job, our partner, the whole thing having to work. That if our peacefulness and our happiness and our serenity depend on things out here working, we don't stand much of a chance. And no one signed a contract with us. All of you in this room didn't say, okay, I'm going to cooperate with her so she's in a good mood today. It's not how it works. So as long as we're relying on our external experience as the source of our happiness, we're going to be searching. But if we can find from within a state of calm, a state of okayness, joy can arise. Yes.
So does being content equal happiness? I'm not sure.
That's a good question, because it is hard to get at what is happiness. I guess, relatively speaking, what we would want to look at is, do we want to live our lives on a roller coaster? Where we go from high moments to low moments to high moments to low moments to, in between moments, and then, up and down. Often when we use the words like happiness or despair, we're talking about those kinds of moments. And what Buddhism is trying to stress is that actually happiness equals not suffering. And where do we suffer? This is a big part of the thing. It's in our minds.
In the attachment to wanting it to be that one.
It's the way we think. It's just, like we can have physical pain, but suffering from physical pain is mental. And that we have some control over. So it's this really understanding, make this distinction between sensory pleasure which is often what we equate with happiness or suffering or sorrow, and recognize that that's just, a thing of our senses, of our eyes, ears, nose, body, taste, that it's not, it's very, I don't want to say ephemeral because that's sort of like the opposite of it. But it's this, it's just something that's so temporary, it'll happen in seconds, the seconds that a good meal, that, because it's just bite by bite, right? So, oh, this is good. But in between the bites, we don't even have it last. Oh, then the same with, our relationships, you have the infatuation stage, or you have that, you come home from a hard day at work and you see your partner, go, oh, this is nice, having a companion. But it's, it's understanding that in between all those highs and lows, is most of our life. And it's learning how to be content with whatever it is that's happening. Knowing that, it's sort of like being able to accept that you are so fortunate. You have a wonderful partner, you have wonderful family, you have a wonderful life, you have a wonderful job, and it's all going to end. And you just don't know who's going to go first. Is it your kids who are going to die first? Is it your partner who's going to die first? Are you going to die first? It's going to end. Again, this isn't rocket science. We all know this. But it tells us something very profound about material things, which includes our body. They can't last. So we need to work on our ability to flow with what's going, with what's happening, and understand that we can be happy or content or whatever word you want to use, peaceful, knowing that it's going to end. Because it's the grasping at making it stay that is one of the hallmarks of our ignorance, of our lack of wisdom, is that we hold things that we like, we want to hold them to stay forever, just as they are in that moment of liking it. And that it can't happen. But we grasp after it as if it can, and then we try to control things around it to make that happen. We never want to see our children hurt. It's not that that's a bad thought. Not a bad thought to never want to see your children hurt, but it's going to happen. You can't protect them from being hurt. So you have to really be judicious in how you try to protect them so that they can live their lives, grow up, learn, all those things. Because if you're just trying to make sure they don't get hurt, you end up with, the padded room, which is not a life. Is this making any sense?
So in nutshell, everything is involved, but still we are crazy enough to control everything and going in circles all the way and be upset all the time.
And we do that.
Yeah.
We do it because we keep grasping that happiness is about controlling everything. To getting what we want. But I want it to go this way. And we have to recognize that that's not the way. It just isn't going to go that way. It's more being able, I want to be okay no matter what's happening. If everything goes wrong, I want to not have it faze me, not have it, cause trauma and stress, just general ennui. That we need to recognize that our constant desire to be meeting desire Giving into desire is going to keep that cycle going. You know, it never will stop. But we can start seeing the disadvantages of staying in a state of desire. That staying in a state of desire is suffering. And the way we do that is we notice what's going on in the mind. And as soon as we see this, I want mind, if only mind, we can see that we are setting ourselves up to suffer. We are creating suffering in our mind in that moment. Yes.
So does there need to be like a balance? Because I think most of us naturally.
Speak a little louder, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I think most of us naturally seek pleasure, right? The rush of, or.
The Buddha's not denying that.
But there needs to be like a realistic balance.
No, it's about recognizing that getting pleasure does not equal satisfaction. Physical pleasure never satiates. It's not possible. We'll always want more.
So it's temporary, that whatever that is.
It's always going to be temporary. So we're looking for, do you want to give up your mind, your life of chasing temporary delights, avoiding temporary suffering for the sake, and that's it. Or do you want a mind that's happy, not suffering in every moment, no matter what's going on, whether you're getting the chocolate cake or not, whether you're having sex or not, whether you're, in good health or not. See, we don't think that's possible, do we? I think Kevin comes, what's our fear there? Yeah.
Something has to happen between taking a break from I want the cake to this pervasive sense of satisfaction. Something has to happen.
Yeah, and that's, what do you think that is?
Like, I'm going to abstain from all the things, and
Yep,
I'm going
that
to
doesn't work.
be equanimous, but that's not satisfying.
No, because you haven't done anything with your mind.
Right.
Not doing something is not changing the mind.
Right.
It's changing an action.
Right.
Does nothing for the mind. You have to go through what your mind is thinking and argue with it. And go, why do I think chasing after this pleasure is going to lead to some sort of satisfaction? Does that even make sense? Is it even possible? Is there any suffering there? So like if you have an uncontrolled desire, then there's some suffering there. That's what we call addiction, that we need to, and we know we need to interrupt that pattern of behavior. What we need to see is that addiction ends with addiction. It starts with that mind of desire. Yeah.
What I see is that most of the times these covering holes, like you have feel like a need, but you're not really seeking that because you need that. You're trying to cover a hole. There's a mind frustration that's coming from somewhere.
Yeah. So
if I can find out where this frustration is coming from, I will accept the fact that I can maybe not have the chocolate cake, and I'll be okay with it because now I understand what is the source, what is triggering me to,
That's right.
to run away from something to get the satisfaction, because we always, through the day since the morning, we're always looking for comfort and satisfaction.
And that's right. So what is Hernan getting at here? What kicks off this reaching?
The need to fill a void.
A need to fill a void. You're already discontent when you reach. Most of us don't shove 2 bites of chocolate cake in our mouth at the same time. Yeah. You and me have that problem. Nobody. But the reality, just a second. The reality is what starts that grasping, that seeking, is a moment of discontent, dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness. Yeah.
In a way, you said that how society frames success and failure.
Yeah.
Is a big part in what we consider.
I would say that we define success and failure based on this inaccurate perception. So society reflects how we think. And so it feeds that.
Yeah.
And it comes this little vicious cycle, but we're not separated from it. We're part of that, you know? And so, yeah.
I was gonna say, I was thinking exactly that about society, that I feel like even in my field, there's a constant package, a new package for mental health, a
Right.
new thing. And it's like, okay, can we be okay with, the rain and the sun and be happy with both?
Yep.
Because there's a constant package, you don't stop.
Oh, you can
Diagnosed
stop.
mental health,
Inputs don't stop.
right, that's what I mean.
It's
always
getting
coming.
control of how we respond to all the inputs, recognizing that what society may be telling us about success and failure may be wrong. In fact, it's most likely wrong because it's certainly not individualized. So how can it possibly, it's a generalization, Yes,
So, two thoughts. First of all, what I'm hearing is that basically none of us live in reality.
yeah,
That's sort of the bottom line. We're just living in our own fantasy world and not actually in reality. And then, so I'm wondering if there's a craving for something like chocolate cake, and you at least think to yourself, I know that I'm feeling a loss or an emptiness because of this. And I know the chocolate cake isn't going to fix it, but I'm going to eat it anyway.
yeah, this is a nice thing about freedom of choice. We can do that. We can choose the chocolate cake. There's no problem with the chocolate cake. The chocolate cake doesn't hurt us. We need to understand our relationship with the chocolate cake, or it's never going to do anything. We'll just eat too much chocolate cake.
So we can also go to the extreme the other way. So if someone's really disciplined and they only eat one bite of chocolate and they're doing, but they
That
get
has
attached-
absolutely nothing to do.
they get attached to doing it correctly, and the correctness becomes it's not the intention or the relationship.
it's not.
Relationships with being,
It's again, you're controlling behavior,
Right.
not your mind.
so even though it looks like, oh.
Yeah, that's just why you can't
they
judge
know
others
this,
by what's going on. Yeah, get off the high horse. Yeah, it's like, we have high horse vegetarians, we have high horse non-vegetarians. Everybody's on a high horse. It's the high horse. It's the attitude of like, my idea is better than yours. Yes. It is okay.
Feeling of missing out.
It's a feeling of missing. This is the dissatisfaction. This is what the Buddha was trying to get us to understand. As we look at our mind enough, we'll realize we just feel dissatisfied. And he says the reason why we feel dissatisfied is because we're mistaken about how things exist. We think there's a solution to that dissatisfaction that exists in getting pleasure and avoiding harm. Yes.
So is it better just to sit with the dissatisfaction?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is okay. So let's discuss okay, so what do you do? Okay.
Sit with it until it passes.
Well, you don't just sit.
Tell yourself not to have it.
Yeah, that would, so what? So what if you have it? That, it's, and so what if you don't have it? If you don't work on your mind, you haven't done anything.
I have this, that now that we're talking, I realize like I'm attached to people responding, and my grandchildren don't talk to me, and I'm attached to something happening there. And, I feel like, and I make a story like I'm being ghosted by my own grandchildren.
Right.
But they're teenagers and I have to.
Yeah, when you've made up a total
But it's
false
still a
story.
Story that keeps.
Yeah,
I
no,
just-
that you keep going.
Yeah.
No one out here keeps it going. There's not some little mad scientist in your head that's keeping it going.
Right.
We're keeping it going. So we want to look. So when we're sitting there with it, we want to start looking. Okay, what brought this thought on? What was the thought when I was having before this thought? What is that whole?
Dissatisfaction, that whole
Yeah.
dissatisfaction, what is that?
You know, what is it? Am I just bored? Am I nervous?
Maybe fear,
Could it be fear? It's often fear,
uncertainty.
uncertainty. It's also this desire to have some experience,
Yeah, what?
an experience,
Oh,
you know? It's like something has to be happening every moment. You noticed how, you know, there's music everywhere, even out in the parking
Yeah.
lots. Can you see I have a point of view about this? You know, but it's there because this is what we're like. We want constant distraction, constant entertainment, constant embellishment. You know, how many people, you know, go through nature, you know, take a walk in nature with, you know, earphones in?
Part of them.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make them bad people, stupid people. It just reflects this constant wanting it to make it bigger, better, richer. Stimulation. We are totally addicted to stimulation, like we talked about last week.
So we take it back as far as we have sensory receptors, sound waves are going in.
Yep.
Anything else we make up about those sound waves is part of our fantasy, our story.
Yeah.
Because we learn language at some point and then we learn meanings or whatever, but really,
Says this goes since beginningless time. It's not like we learn this from the world. No, we've created a world where it feeds, you know, our mind, our projections of mind feed the story, you know. So it's not because we know language. We have language. I mean, that's a long story. We're not going to go there. But anyway, but the whole idea is the way we project our filters onto everything, our view onto everything, distorts that view, right? And so the feedback we get back from it is distorted. It starts off distorted because what we're putting out there is distorted. What we receive back is distorted for the same reason. Because it's going through our ears, our memories, our filters.
this
Yes,
has been happening
Barry.
for billions of years with our mind from reincarnation. And
Now, yeah. Mine's always existed.
Always.
Yeah, so it's a mess. Yes, Barry.
One of my thoughts that I think is also a big driving force behind this loneliness is right.
Okay, so that's another one of those, what's underneath this? You know, kind of things. So maybe you need to call a friend. We need, you know, we want to match our responses to what's going on into ourselves better, rather than in a, you know, an unproductive way. Fantasizing, let's just live in a movie. You know, that's not living your life. That's just living in a, you know, I love books. I love novels, you know, it's like, okay, let's not live my life. Let's pretend this is my family in this book or this movie or this, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, we need to recognize that we want a more appropriate response. As long as we're living in la la land, we cannot create a genuine okayness about our experiences because we're not there. We're always going, what next? Or can we do this too? You know, let's add this to it. And there's nothing wrong with listening to music while you exercise and, you know, blah, 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 but you do want to know what you're doing. You know, you want to know, well, I'm going to listen to the music because I can't stand to exercise. And so it's the way I can keep myself going. I listen to podcasts when I exercise, you know, Buddhist podcasts. Let's feel good about the mind so I can ignore what's happening to my body, you know. So it's, you know, we just need to know what we're doing. It isn't about the action. You know, there's times when society will intervene and say, it's about the action, you know, child abuse, you know, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, all these things that can really destroy your own body, your own mind, or that you could harm others through. They're things that they're actions that we have to stop, you know. But in general, most of us are not caught up in that. But that's where our actions now can lead. If we give in to our impulses from moment to moment, that's the mind that you're not learning how to control yourself. I mean, I didn't quit smoking until it was socially unacceptable to smoke because I could get away with it. Nobody said, I mean, this is what we have to face is, that's what I think, that it's okay to, be totally controlled by nicotine because nobody's telling me it's a bad idea. And as soon as somebody tells me it's a bad idea, 20 years later, I managed to quit. But, we have to recognize that we can look at the way we're thinking and go, that can't be working for me. This attitude is not helpful. This idea that I'm not good enough. And so that means I need to, comfort myself with activities that are not good for me. That can't be working. So what can I do? It's a lot of this process is about looking within and going, oh my God, I'm suffering. And have compassion for that suffering. Say, yeah, the world is a mess. It's kind of a scary place. There's a lot of sadness and sorrow, and we can never going to get it just right. And have real compassion for the fact that we're trying to cope with this. We need to develop a friendliness with where we are. An appreciation that it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from a feeling of vulnerability, from a misunderstanding. The Buddha said it's just ignorance. We misunderstand how we exist. One of the ways we misunderstand how we exist is we think that we're not equal. So we're always constantly wanting to show that we're, at least as good as, or maybe better than, so-and-so. So it's about really recognizing we're not being childish in our unwillingness to, look within and really take ourselves seriously and try to change our minds. It's that it's another avoidance of suffering. It's hard to look at how we suffer. It's hard to take that moment going, I'm scared. In this moment, I'm scared. And just sit with it and not try to drive it away with distraction. Not same with loneliness, not that kind of, it's hard to sit with those kind of like, I don't have to fix this. I can't fix this with chocolate cake. But to be able to go, oh, that's what's going on here. That's okay. I'm sorry.
Be aware.
Yes, just being aware and not running away. Being able to just pause and go, oh, that's what's going on here.
Just let thought go.
That's a theory.
Oh,
Yeah, it's about, if we could just let it go, that's what we want to do. And there's some things we might discover about ourselves or go, oh, I'm not going to hold that anymore. I'm ready to let that go. And we just let it go. But usually we also then have to bring wisdom to our awareness. We have to look at it and go, okay, so does being lonely mean I failed some way? Does it mean that, I'm unlovable? Does it mean this and that? Does everybody feel lonely at some point? Is that grammatically correct? Thank you. It sounded funny to the ear. Okay. So, we want to be able to be, have that immeasurable mind for ourselves, to instead of, like, well, like to remember that there's a, I don't really like to use this analogy, but it is sort of like, there's this little baby, that needs to be held. It just needs to be acknowledged. Yeah, boy, this sucks. Life is hard. And there's some really hard moments in life, And in addition to all those hard moments, there's the trauma of those moments that, keeps going. So being able to just kind of go, okay, so what can I do differently in my response to these moments? And a lot of it's just validating. Okay, so this is how I feel. I know you can't stand it anymore. Go ahead.
No, I'm processing the thought. No, I don't need to ask. No, but I want, I'm okay if my mind needs that training. I'm so okay with that. But what I'm hearing is even as we go into all the questions about this and that, that's still in the story and we're validating the story. So we start with awareness.
No, we're not validating the story.
We're creating compassion in the process.
No,
So,
so listen first.
Okay.
Because we're not validating the story.
no, I'm getting it now as you're saying.
Okay, so we're validating what experiences come up for you. I'm lonely.
Having the experience of validate.
Well, I'm just lonely. I'm lonely. Yeah, don't have to go any further than that. To just that first moment. Oh, I'm afraid. Oh, I'm disappointed. Oh, just that moment. We don't have to justify it. In fact, justifying is the opposite of what we want to do. Yes, her name.
As soon as you bring like, yeah, but if, then.
Oh man, it's all over. Because then we're externalizing. If this had happened, or if I could do this, or if I blah, 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 and ad nauseum. So that kind of conversation really isn't helpful. So we really need to be able to first just acknowledge what's going on. That certain, the more you do it, of course, the more in tune you can get to those slight changes in the way your body's feeling, or that, and be able to go, oh, something's wrong here. What's going on? Yeah, because usually whatever it is that's going on is going to be the driving force to the next thing you do. So you want, if you don't want to be short-tempered with the dog, you want to acknowledge what's going on so that you can digest it before acting. Yeah.
Something that came to mind as we're talking about I'm lonely or sad. How does Buddhism deal with the most difficult feelings? Like Carl Jung talks about the shadow, right? So how do you deal with me?
Yeah, you see, we don't
jealous?
believe. So Buddhism teaches that you are not that.
Oh, okay.
You
Or
have a
I can't- or
mind.
I can't have the action.
Yeah. Ooh, man, what did I just say? Yeah, we have to deal with that. That's called, that's when we want to truly regret our actions because of the harm we've done. But this is the difference between regret and guilt in Buddhism. Guilt says, you are this. You are an angry person. You are a cruel person. You are mean. You are this and that. Regret says, I did something mean. And I'm sorry I did that. And I'm going to try not to do that. So that's the difference. We are not, according to Buddhism, we have Buddha potential. Well, we are the basis for a fully enlightened being. All of us. Everyone. We have the capacity to quit being mean. We have a capacity to have universal love and compassion for everyone. So we don't deal with it in that way. We are not mean people. We have mean
Yeah, I meant, like,
actions,
the
mean
recognition
words.
that you can't
Oh, yeah, we need to deal with that. That's another part of the looking and not running. Just being able to look, wow, that was a really mean thing to say. And just, whoa, okay. I don't want to feel this way about something I've done. So what do I need to look at? This is why we want to get to know ourselves well, so that we can see that dissatisfaction or that discomfort that's arising before we act. So we can help reduce the odds that we're creating a condition in order to be me, if that's our habit. Some people's condition, they create conditions in order to withdraw, and they, become invisible. And that has its own consequences, so it's understanding that we have more control about these things than we think. We can, in fact, get ahead of it. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes self-love and compassion. It takes this ability to understand that we are not these actions. That's why one of the big practices we do is that every day at the end of the day, we try to regret those actions we didn't do so good. Well, and kind of look at them and go, oh, that was harmful. And then we might, do a practice to kind of try to imprint on our mind that we don't want to do this, because we really actually like people and we want to care for them, and that we like the results of that better than we like this result, And then we kind of make a determination. We set them, we kind of go, okay, tomorrow I'm going to try not to do that. Or tomorrow morning, I'm going to try not to do that. Or for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try not to do that. Whatever you can comfortably commit to. And then after that, you rejoice in all the stuff you did well today. Oh, I held myself back from making that snarky remark. Oh, I helped somebody with this. Oh, I smiled at this person, all those things. Because we have to develop that understanding of what our capacity really is. If we just see us at the end of the day as just mean people, first of all, of course, that means we need to work on something probably pretty quickly if we don't want to be lonely the rest of our lives. I know this. I was that person. I know this really well. You can be so angry and spew it out to other people all the time, and you end up with a really miserable life, and you can change that. So we don't have to worry about, there's nothing, there's something unfixable. No, I can't go back and undo all the harm I've caused people in my life, but I can stop doing it. I don't have to keep adding to the list, and we have to live with that. That's that part, it's not that, we have to accept, I make mistakes, and some of my mistakes are big. Some of my mistakes have traumatized others, and they will be traumatized until they can work it through. And I have to take responsibility for that. But I am not that. We are all an accumulation of everything that went before us and all the decisions we made. The good news is when we start to learn, there is a pause between thoughts. We can choose to respond differently. When we find, if we start paying attention enough, we can go, oh, not following that thought. We can do that. But we have to be determined to do it. And that's where regret comes in. Regretting a negative action where you genuinely feel the hurt that you caused really helps us not do it again. When we can put ourselves in the other person's shoes and go, wow, I wouldn't want to feel that way. I don't even like feeling the way I feel from having caused that in someone else. Just makes you physically ill when you can allow yourself to because we harm each other, don't we? this is part of our capacity. We have the capacity to harm each other. Pretending that that's not true is not helpful. We need to look at it so we can say, oh, maybe I will choose not to do that next time. I don't have to say the most hurtful thing that I can think of. Because we attack the heart. We really want to acknowledge our capacity for this. And then we also want to acknowledge our capacity for love and kindness and patience, and because we are all those things too. We do all of that. Because we want to catch it before we've slid so far on one side, like a Hitler, who's fallen all the way over to one side, that to work your way back, not writing off an entire group of people as not people, it takes a lot of time. And you've done immeasurable harm So we just don't want to become that. And that's one of the things that I do. If you have any negative habits that are really, really out of control, like mine were, then it's helpful to kind of, in your mind going, I don't want to be a Hitler in the future. I don't want to be born, reincarnate, 100 million years from now and be a Hitler. I don't want my anger to have grown to that point. Because sometimes we have to be firm with ourselves. We have to understand cause and effect. If you don't want to be a bitch, you have to stop. It's just a fact, So, it's just this recognizing that, first of all, we can stop, and then trying to stop, which just kind of goes back and forth, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, So it's just, this is not effortless. It also doesn't take forever. I mean, I was a different person within a few years of becoming a Buddhist. So, it's one of the fastest methods to work with your mind is to look at it and go, what are you thinking? Now, it's a lot easier when you have a tremendous motivation, like, if you want to be alone for the rest of your life, you might have to change now, which was my motivation. So what do? I choose to be alone for the rest of my life. No, because I wasn't very skilled at it. So, but the point is, it just takes looking and not running away, and just being able to go. Yeah.
What about like the opposite side of that? And if you have some individuals in your life that maybe you feel are somewhat toxic to
Right.
you, and so it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, no, you're the receiver of all this
Right,
negativity.
and so and if you want to have contentment, but also be kind to others, it's like, where do you?
You have to take care of yourself, your mind. So like, receiving toxic, just like the world, we have to cut the dump sites. We have to stop the dumping. Now, we can't make someone else stop dumping on us. We have to walk away. The best thing ever happened to me was being left. So it's being a nice person doesn't mean please throw your garbage on me. It's not kind to the other person. It just gives them more leeway to just be a, terrible person.
Keep practicing that.
Yeah. Oh, you want to be a doormat? Oh, let me tell you, I can make you a good one. It's ridiculous. So but it is hard. I mean, there's certain people that we feel are toxic in our lives that they're family. We can't just, we can. People walk away from their family members all the time, but we have to, but it's a big choice, so we do want to make such choices with quite a lot of wisdom, Yeah.
How about if you have a friend, like he's considered like diagnosed bipolar or borderline, and that's being like, you don't know how to deal with that. Like it's lack of compassion, just
Well, it's also lack of knowledge. If you don't know how to deal with it, you may not be able to deal with it. You know, I mean, it's not like, you know, like if someone said, I'm sorry, the pilot has just had a heart attack. Can you come fly the plane? No, I'm sorry. I won't be able to figure it out. You know, come back when the panic attack is over, you know, and the plane's crashed.
So like Buddhism would not consider that like a lack of compassion. You
No.
are mistreating that person because
It's
they
a
are
lack
sick
of-
mentally.
it's arrogance to think that we can help everybody. You know, it's sad, but sometimes the desire to fix someone else is because we can't tolerate the way we're suffering. You know, so we have to look at that. We have to be able to go, you know, I want to keep changing this because I can't stand it. But I'm actually not helping. You know, so we have to separate from it. Yeah.
So what if there's a situation where you don't want to fix it, you recognize you can't fix it, but the toxicity or the negativity is being absorbed by yourself?
That you can control. By recognizing, oh, I'm taking this on like it's true. And it's not true.
It happens so fast.
Yeah, but with practice, have you noticed how fast your mind is? So you can keep up. You just have to keep putting the effort to keep up. And then you have to pause. You know, we also have to take breaks. You have to limit yourself. How much exposure to this can you take? You know, but really we can go, you know, it's helpful if you're around someone who's spewing a lot of toxicity is to not listen at all. You just don't listen. Or you just listen with compassion, with, oh man, it must be terrible to have that kind of mind, to have those kind of thoughts. And that's the only kind of thoughts you have. But you don't take it in at all. It's just sort of like, not about me. You know, it's entirely that, gosh, it must be terrible to feel that way. You don't say anything this out loud because it's not going to help.
So you wouldn't even say that out loud.
No,
You
no.
have to say
And unless,
something.
no, you don't. Why do you have to say something? No? Is it worthy of response?
I guess it's just a social expectation. to
Yeah,
respond
well,
to
yeah,
somebody
well,
in
yeah.
conversation.
And some people think silence is accepted of
Yeah.
what's going on.
Who's making that story up?
Society.
Our own mind in that moment.
Some people.
I don't want them to think I agree. Okay, fine, speak up.
Yeah,
But you know, if you just want to make the situation escalate, speak up by all means.
yeah.
You know, so you have to really choose. You can walk away from conversations. You could stop having them. You know, you don't have to go out to lunch with everybody you've ever met. You know, this isn't about liking everybody. You know, first of all, we have different likes, don't we? We're not going to like everybody. That's different from loving everyone and having compassion for everyone. Love is just that wish that they're happy. Compassion, just that wish they're not suffering. It's not, oh, you want to be best friends. It's not that. Yeah.
It's almost like, I want you to excel, not necessarily around.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, if we can help, by all means help. If we're having the mind of resentment or we're starting to feel less than ourselves because of it, then we're not helping them. We're harming ourselves, and we need to watch that. This is all a balancing act. This is not easy. But we really do have the right to not listen to garbage. Just like you can turn off a TV, you can turn off the radio. You cannot listen to someone who's just spewing negativity, even if you have to be in the same room. Yeah.
I've read that people having trauma in their life, it tends to create a defensiveness. They're dealing with anybody.
Yeah. So that's why compassion is so appropriate. People don't just become evil. You know, It's that they've had a whole history of thinking that just gets more and more polluted. It's more and more off course. It's in the wrong direction. And then, all sorts of ugliness comes out of their mouths or in their actions. So we can have compassion for them. We know the world would be a better place if they weren't suffering. But we can't necessarily help. My partner couldn't help me. My partner needed to leave. So that's what, we have to just understand that having Buddha nature does not make you a Buddha. It just means you have the capacity for that through lots of effort. So until you're a Buddha, you have to recognize, oh, not helping the situation. And it's harming me. And you count. We all count. We don't count more than someone else. We just all count. And you're the only one who knows what's going on for you in this situation. You have to use your wisdom to make these decisions. And sometimes we make the wrong one. Oh, I can put up with this, and then you want to kill them. Nah, okay, maybe not. Other times you walk away from someone and then you miss them. Trial and error. But having it, doing it through this lens of, oh, I'm valuable. So if I'm suffering, it's okay for me to comfort myself with just, oh, I don't feel well now. Just being okay, being present with that. Most of us are uncomfortable being around distress, so we need to develop an ability to do it. Because most of the time that's what we need to give each other when we're in distress, is just witness, just being there. But we need to be able to do that for ourselves in order to do this work. But it comes from a loving heart. And it's like, for me, I had to start with, well, I can either feel guilty and stay this way for the rest of time, or I can get on with it. So whenever I would feel guilty, oh God, I can't believe I did this or did that, blah, 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 I had to just say, that doesn't help. You need to change, move on. I had to be very, very, very firm with myself. So it's just, guilt doesn't help. Regret helps. But you don't become, you don't use regret to feel guilty. It's just an acknowledgement that you want to do better. And then you try to do better. You don't just wallow in, I did it again. And you will do it again. Yuck, but it's true. But you can definitely develop these new habits of at least just looking and going, ooh, I'm getting angry. Time to walk away from this conversation, Because instead what we often do is justify the anger. We'll go, oh, they're acting like a jerk. Well, that's not the point. The point is that you don't want to feel anger. So we need to get a handle on that. It's because we can't control the jerk out there, but we can control us thinking that it's an acceptable response to be angry. Well, if you want to suffer, yes, because an angry mind is a suffering mind. So if you want to suffer, be angry. If you want to get away from a toxic person, walk away. You don't have to be angry to do that. In fact, it's not healthy to be angry to do it. That's just making yourself suffer. And it's blaming someone else for something that they're not actually in control of, which is your mind.
I'm gonna ask something, I think silly.
I'm sorry, I have a question. There's a question.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
as someone's asking, how can I remain mindful of social injustice while balancing the spectrum between apathy and overthinking a situation usually out of control?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. The world's a mess, isn't it? It can be really, really hard to kind of cope with just how much harm we can do to each other. So I think the main thing is to recognize that we want to participate. It's not like things happen, that climate change happened all by itself, that our actions had nothing to do with it, or our inactions had nothing to do with it, you know? No, so we want to acknowledge that we could do some things differently and do them differently in order to help. You know, we do what we can to help. You know, it's that slogan, you know, think globally, act locally. There's only so much we can do. But doing nothing, that's not very kind, you know. It's just, it's like we want to be useful and productive. In fact, that's one of the sources of feeling satisfied, is feeling helpful. So instead of having despair when you see a world's problems, you ask, what is it that I can do? Can I write letters? I mean, none of these are world shaking, and we have to accept that. I can't fix this. Some people are incredibly, you know, like, I'm going to put my voice out there. You know, I might be what, 15? I don't know what Greta Thunberg age is. I don't even know her last name. But, you know, we have to accept our limits, or accept we put limits on ourselves. That's okay too. But we can participate in the solution in whatever way we can find. Or we can keep ignoring it and feel bad every time we watch the news. You know, because nothing that's happening globally is not happening, you know, I mean, it's also happening locally, you know, so the actions that lead to wars in other places, we have that energy in our own society. We can work on that, you know. So it's about, you know, recognizing that we can participate in a solution. And we have to be very realistic about what we can do. You know, because despair also doesn't help. Despair is really sort of like a response. It's sort of like guilt and regret. Despair is sort of this guilt kind of place. You can't do anything with it because it's sort of implying there's nothing you can do. Well, that's not true. Can we fix it? I don't know. No. But it's about working with our own mind, recognizing when we turn the picture back to us, you know, where, oh, I can't do, you know, where we just make it about us. I can't help because I can't bear to think about this. You know, it's just too awful. You know, that's all about us. You know, so we have to ask ourselves those questions. Am I not participating in the solution just because it's hard? You know, or because I'm too busy. I have other things I need to be doing. You know, whatever. We just have to keep checking up. But the best thing to do when we feel like, you know, if something's really out of control out there is to help, to do something that might help. Because then it feels more manageable. Or at least that you tried. Yeah.
I was watching this, you made me think of I was watching this dialogue documentary yesterday. They were talking about how much they're taking more and more land of the Amazon for the agriculture, especially for feeding livestock. And I went to home like devastated. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? We're ending the rainforest. And again, it's like, what do?
You
Like,
eat less meat.
Less meat, exactly.
Really, this is not rocket science.
Yeah.
You know? You help other ways to help their economy. Because it's naive to think that, oh, it's just their fault. How dare they? Well, they want to live too. They want an economy too. We need, so always coming from a point of we have, we're all the same. We all want to be happy. We all want to be safe. We all want to be protected. We want to have clothes. We want to have food. We want all those things. We disagree on the solution. And we like to think that because, someone's doing something over there that's going to impact the whole world, there's no question about that. The Amazon matters in terms of the air of the planet, but we act like, hey, you're not doing your job. Like there's a separate entity, not part of the human race that's struggling with this. That they don't have the right to want to be happy and have food and have an economy and So it's about, trying to be part of the solution and find some other way to manage this. Some of it's, and there are many things that, okay, I can't do anything there, so I can only do something here. So what can I do here? It's helpful also to read about or watch things that have the good news. There are a lot of climate scientists out there right now who are who are out there going, this is what we're doing and it's really working, and supporting those things.
They also showed a company there that is planting trees.
Right. Yeah. So you want to, and you want to see how you can help those things happen, even if it's just education, getting the word out, talking to your friends. But because allowing ourselves to just drown in the, feeling of helplessness about it doesn't help. That just gives us an excuse not to do anything, and that's not good enough. Oh, what a lovely day. I see we talked about the bitch over here, and we talked about, climate, the fact that the whole world is a mess. So how do we get back to feeling good enough? Yeah. Working on your minds is absolutely one of the best ways to benefit all sentient beings. If you can work on your mind to do no harm, no one has to be afraid of you ever. That's a nice thing. That's a really nice gift to give. Is working on your mind to really just be helpful. Yes.
So meditation helps us on that matter, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll talk more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, and we'll have to talk about the solution, because every time I try to go there, somehow we get too many questions to go there. So we're going to look at, and go there, because there's a methodical way of looking at it. We won't actually do it in a methodical way. That's, most of us don't, our minds aren't like that, but it is helpful to kind of have a sense of, okay, what steps can I take? Some of them are on the cushion, so to speak. You could be on a chair. You could just be sitting quietly at the lunch table, whatever. But some of them are just the way in which we approach our awareness of what's going on with ourselves.
So something of this, today or sometime in the future, if you will answer this question, how is the technique of Vipassana scientifically helps us by observing?
I can give you about 10 books on the subject.
Yeah, to, take good practical decisions, wise decisions in our life. So we stay in a peaceful state all the time.
Yeah, but it's called practice. It takes effort, putting things into practice again and again and again until suddenly you kind of have the hang of it. And then guess what happens? Something else comes up. And so you had to work on that. It takes a while. This is, Buddha's, it's obvious that, we're all stuck here. And there's a reason we're all stuck here. And it's because, we haven't gotten the hang of it yet. But my life is infinitely better than it used to be. Infinitely. I sleep so much better. Everything about my life's better.
So on an average, how many years does it take?
Well, I can tell you this, it only takes weeks to not have so much regret. You know,
To have someone what?
to not have so much regret,
Oh.
You
you know, regret. Both, you know, to do less stuff that you regret, you know? It's just like, it's amazing what keeping your mouth shut can do. You know, keeping your thoughts to yourself. You know. And it's also really good fodder for a sense of humor. Because when you don't act out what's going on in your mind, and then you look at it, it kind of becomes hilarious. Because it's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
You know, how can you go from here to there? It's just like incredible how self-justifying we can be. And it's kind of embarrassing, but funny. Mostly it's funny. So, you know, anyway. Now, it took me a long time I would have to spend whole days just going, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. I'd hear something, don't say anything, don't say anything. I mean, literally, it was like that. But I was a jerk.
I have been practicing Vipassana from 7 years and I've came along. I've controlled my anger and all that. Now I'm at a stage where I can have an awareness, okay, I'm going wrong and I don't have to, but then still
Yeah,
when I
so-
see I have a long way to go.
Yeah. So what you've done is succeeded in learning discipline.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Now you want to actually unpack those states of mind because you can have them not arise. That's where we want to go.
Yeah.
First, we want to stop acting on them. First, we want to notice them. Then we want to stop acting on them. And then, you know, we actually want to work well enough with it that it doesn't arise as often. You know, so you don't have anything to control. I mean, it's just not there. You know, so that different thoughts arise instead. Because we have all those good thoughts too, you know. So we want to increase those. All right, so we're out of time. Okay. Okay. Okay, next week we're going to talk about some steps how to go through this. Anyway, but bring your questions, you know, try to look at your mind through the day, you know, just kind of notice. In any time you start to feel that kind of, I don't know what it is for you, you know, that gut sensation of like, you know, I'm not comfortable, you know, kind of look, you know, what's going on. You don't do anything differently. That's not the first step. The first step is just noticing, oh, I'm not comfortable, you know. And maybe you can do something right in that moment to feel a little more comfortable, you know. Stop the conversation you're having, stop listening to the program you're listening to, whatever. So anyway, okay. So he's ahead of me. Oh, I have it on my screen too. All right, so we want to take all the positive stuff that we may have accumulated during this time, all the kind of occasional thoughts or moments of just feeling, you know, more loving towards others, more compassionate towards others, to just, and including ourselves in that picture, you know, of feeling more compassionate for ourselves, more respectful of our wounds, and of our desire to do better. You know, we show up to places like this because there's a part of us that wants our heart to get stronger, you know, and more skillful. And that's great news. So, and we wanted to help. So so our dedications are about trying to send out any possible, you know, if creating the cause for happiness is possible, then we want to share it, you know. So we've created a little lap for ourselves. We want it to spread out to benefit others. I'm trying to move the screen, but I'm not in control. Oh no. Okay. So remember your motivation at the beginning. Pat yourself on the back for sticking it out, you know, and making that wish that you carry this to benefit all sentient beings. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then for the long, healthy, happy lives of our teachers, when it's 2:44. For His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you uphold the subduer's moral way, who service the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And thank you, folks at home. And I'll try to read the chat because I haven't read the chat. So sorry about that. I don't even know how. I know I can save it or something.
A lot of it.
Save chat.
A lot of it's been me just summarizing the question. But
Okay, thank you. So thank Anthony for being a moderator of type. So, and everybody. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Ann. Hi, John. Hi,
Thank
Christina.
you.
No, Gustavo.
thank you.
Sheila's tablet. Hi, Sheila's tablet.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi.
you much.
Hi, Dawn.
Hey,
Hi,